All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Oh Hell No podcast. Tonight I have Valerie Fitzgerald. She is the president of the Valerie Fitzgerald Group located in Beverly Hills. Ooh, I love Beverly Hills.
Yes, well, come visit us anytime. Our weather's incredible.
I'm sure. She is also an author. She wrote a book called Heart and Soul: How to Survive and Thrive in Real Estate. And she's a speaker as well and a podcaster.
That's it.
So, yeah, it's a lot, Valerie.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
No
Really
problem.
happy to be here.
Yeah. So, I want to start by asking you a really big question.
Okay.
So, what is the biggest hardship that you have had to overcome to date to get you to where you are today? So, if you think of all of the things that you've gone through in life, because we've all gone through a lot of crap, right? What is the biggest thing that you would say, like, had I not gone through that and conquered it, I probably wouldn't be here today?
Wow, there seems like it's because I think when you're conquering things, they're little steps. There's not one giant leap. I think they're little steps that sort of add up and they kind of, I call them stackers, they kind of stack up and some of them get so heavy they fall over and some other stackers you can kind of deal with at the same time so that they don't fall over. So, and I talk about that. I did a TED Talk and I talk about the stackers in life. But um, so was there any one thing? I think blind faith probably would be one of the biggest ones for me. I think just having blind faith that I could be a mother who could raise a baby on my own when other people weren't doing it, and when I was broke, and when I didn't have a profession, or I didn't have a man, or I didn't have anything on the horizon, or any profession really in particular on the horizon. So I think the blind faith just kept connecting the dots that I believed in. We actually live in blind faith every day. We believe in blind faith and we get in our car and drive that it's going to be fine. Or, every single day, most of our decisions we're making without consciously realizing it, we're using blind faith. And I think in this case, because I got through so many important big hurdles with blind faith, that finally it just kept growing and growing and adding up and adding up and adding up. And when I look back, sometimes I go, oh hell no, did I do that? Oh my God, did that all really go down at the same time? But
Would you say you're the type of person who is like, I'm just gonna go for it. I don't care. Like, I'm gonna do it. Like, has that always been your attitude towards life? Or are you like the one who'll say, I'm gonna do it, but you worry about it the whole time? Like, what would you say is more of your personality?
my personality is 100%. If someone says I can't do it, I am going to do it. And if someone's going to the left, I'll go to the right. I am absolutely the opposite of what people will say. Oh, you're supposed to. I remember when I first started in real estate, they said, oh, you're supposed to have a farm. I didn't know what a farm was. You're supposed to work in this particular area. And I said, why? Why can't I work everywhere? Well, because nobody does that. Okay, that's good, because then I was going to do that. So for me, I was always, well, what do you mean why can't it happen? Well, okay, I'm going to go do that. So no, I'm not a worrier at all.
Good. I love it. So what made you decide to get into real estate? And when did you get into it? Like around what year? Because I'm asking that question because a lot of people right now are like running to real estate, right? But
Yeah.
I'm sure you were probably doing it long ago. So I just want to know
I've,
what made you
I've been in real estate
go in.
over 25 years. So, and I think it's really interesting to watch because when the market's really hot, like it is all over the country, in almost every market, everyone thinks it's easy money. So, of course, you're going to jump into real estate, so you're going to get rich. You're going to do one or two deals, and you're going to make a lot of money. But it isn't that. This is not a job; it's a career. This is something that takes a long time to do, to learn, to practice, to build your client base. This is a career. It's not just a job.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. So what made you decide to go into real estate? Was there someone you met, or what presented the opportunity?
Well, I had been living in New York City and I was offered a job to work at the time for Revlon and only it was in California. So I rented out my apartment in New York. I got a 2-year lease on it. Got on a plane, shipped out some. I rented it furnished, so I only had some clothes to bring, and my baby. And I had this little lower duplex. I was renting very sparsely, very a bed or crib, and not much, a little sofa. And I remember hearing a neighbor next door. The window was open. I heard the neighbor, our baby crying. And so I kind of stuck my head out and said, and she's like, hi. And we had girls about the same age, and we became good friends. And we started kind of sharing hours so that I could help her and she could help me. And we kind of did that. And a friend of mine, a couple of months after I was in LA, they said to me, your job is no longer there. And I'm thinking, well, I've got my apartment was leased out for 2 years. What am I going to do now? So a friend of mine said, oh, just go into real estate. And I thought, I don't know anybody here. I didn't know any business. I didn't know anything about real estate. So I traded my hours with my next door neighbor and I went to real estate school at night to get my license. And that's sort of how it all started. And then I didn't have any clients. And then I would go to an office and I would take her. She slept under my desk. And just try to learn a little bit about the areas and the business a little bit, and one thing after another. If I was so tenacious that people would give me an opportunity to sit an open house, or show a property for them, or tag along. So that's kind of what I did, really but really right from the ground up.
Right. So what do you love about real estate? What lights your fire about it?
I don't know if today is the day to say that I love real estate because I've had one of the most difficult people on the planet in my career. I'm just trying to finish dealing with today. So there are those days you kind of go, ah, like you doing anything. But because it's a very emotionally driven business, we're talking about people either have gotten money, lost money, divorces and deaths, and a lot of family turmoil, good and bad, that schools and all kinds of change. It's always about change in people's lives. That's why they're buying real estate. So we're kind of, kind of balancing all of that in terms of what they can afford. And, you're handling a lot. You're handling a lot. And I think the best part of real estate is when you just work. So you make something work and you see people that are so happy, whether they're buying an expensive house or a condo, it doesn't really matter. It's the same emotional intensity that someone's feeling when they're really putting themselves emotionally and financially out there on the line in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you, what do you struggle with in the real estate industry? And I guess you kind of summed it up as with balancing all of those things with the actual selling and buying of the property, but having to manage the emotion that comes along with it with the buyers. Is there anything else that you struggle with?
Well, I think the most important thing with all of that, because there's so much flying around, and there's people that threaten legal things, and they people that want to interpret a contract a certain way and all of that. So there's an intense side of it, the business side of it can be very important to watch as well. But I think the most important thing, one of the most important things I do, is I don't take anything personally.
Mm,
So I can leave it when I go home. When I go home, I can leave it. I mean, I might look at my emails and do a couple little things, but I'm not your 24/7 around the clock girl. I never was. I think there's a time when things shut down and you turn into your home life, your friend life, your family life, your things. And although sometimes the clothes can pile up in a pile over a few days because you're not getting to put them away, but yeah, yeah, it's
I love that. Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. Turn that off and go home and deal with home. So you sell luxury properties as well. And now we are able to see, watch you realtors do this on TV, right? Because now we have all these shows, like you're selling LA, you're selling this place, you're selling that place. But how does one get into selling luxury real estate? Like, how long did it take you to actually branch over into that part of the business?
I don't think anybody branches over. I think it's all about your knowledge. I think if you put yourself in a box and limit yourself to this is a price range, this is your farm, this is, then you have put yourself in a small little category. I think when you're learning a market, you learn all price ranges. And I think when you go out to open houses, you go to all of them. And I think when you, your knowledge would, so that when you're talking to someone, you can talk about the highest sale or the lowest sale. I think you have to learn the values. I think that's the knowledge that we acquire along the way. That's why it takes a long time, it takes years to sort of get your I guess your sea legs where you feel strong enough that you can really lead a conversation in any way and form in terms of what's going on in the values in the market. So I don't think that, I think someone who starts off and they're a condo and I've seen agents, for instance, that were in condos 20 years ago. They still are in condos. I never saw them really switch into houses. I never understood why. Maybe that was their comfort level, comfort zone. Maybe that was just enough for them. Everybody has their own level of where they will see themselves. So, I mean, if you want to be in luxury real estate, then you have to learn it. You have to go see it. You have to drive by it. You have to go look up the developments, look up the developers, find out who the sellers are, look up their names, because we have access to all that information. So you have to start to have that knowledge. Drop by a construction site, talk to the guy who's the head contractor there, and it's you've got to have that in you to love what we do.
Right. So it's not like, okay, you start out selling these small houses and then you can go here. It's like, that's what you want to do. You learn the market and you do that.
People want to talk to an expert. They want to talk to somebody who's knowledgeable. And
Right.
if you're knowledgeable, I don't care if you've been licensed for a year, but you've got the knowledge and you can rattle off things and say, well, that sold and this, and that was really pretty. And if you've got to go back and look it up because you couldn't see something in person, you do that. But people want to learn from people who are knowledgeable. So
what do you think is the biggest misconception about being in real estate?
that it's easy, that it's quick money. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to someone who wants to get into the business if they wanted to at any age? Because, people get into real estate at all different ages. What is the one piece of advice as a seasoned, real estate, professional that you would give them?
The one thing I really love about this business is that you can be any age, any weight, any height, any color, any accent, any back. It does not matter. There's room for everyone. I love that. I love that there's a place for everyone in this business. It's never been a discrimination sort of business, and there's any one type that's on top. And I mean, I just had a young guy walk into my office an hour ago who is brand new, and he has a Russian accent, and he wants to be in real estate. And I said, you have to go get your license, and then you have to learn some things. I mean, I'm not a teaching office because I just don't have the time to. I'm driving 3 or 4 hours a day, so I don't have the time to do that. But you have to be in this business. The first thing you have to do is you've got to have the desire, because you got to be a self-starter. You really have to want to know things and to talk to people and like I would say to you, like I asked you, where do you live? Where are you from? How did you get the name? So what that does with people is it shows that you're interested in them. And that's the same thing when we're in real estate. You ask questions because you're interested in them, not because you're pushing or prying or anything like that. Because that's what people we do. I'd like to know about you. You want to know about me. So this is what you do as you're building your business.
Okay. And one last question about real estate is there anything in the profession that's really underrated that you could share? Like, is there another job that's in your office that people rarely know about that is a great position and that is something that you could give us the insight on?
Well, it's funny because we have 4 administrative people here in my office, and everybody has their own kind of position. And my assistant, she's the closest to me in terms of showings and contracts and things that we're doing. And some people like that supportive role. So and it's independent because everybody's independent, of course. And then my marketing assistant, she's independent because she does all the marketing, creative ideas. What do you think of that? Let's do that. Let's turn this around that way. It's a collaboration. Social media is the same way. We collaborate on, oh, well, how's that post doing? And what are the reviews and what are the likes and all that kind of thing. So I think if you don't want to be the front, what would you call it, the rainmaker, then there's a lot of other ways that you can be on a team, part of a team, maybe holding open houses but if you don't want to be in front of people that much. So therefore you could be in the administrative role, developing it, designing. How do you help get someone's attention to your property? How do you get someone's attention to be interested in what we have to sell or into working with us? So there's all kinds of, ways of working in real estate. And if you're a contractual person, you could be a transaction coordinator. And that's the person who does all the contracts and, handles all the closings and things like that. So there's all kinds of different things you can do.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that with us, because I think that there's a lot of things that people don't realize when it comes to, finding careers that suit them or, align with their skill set. So I'm glad
Right.
that you were able to share that. So tell us about your book, Heart and Soul, How to Survive, Thrive in Real Estate. What made you write this book and what will people learn from reading it?
So Simon & Schuster's the publisher, and they actually asked me to write the book, if I would write a book. I used to speak a lot about inspiring women and different platforms and a couple of keynote speeches and things. And so they contacted me and they said, have you ever thought about writing a book? And I said, not really. And they said, would you like to write a book? And I said, sure, because of course I would say sure. And then they go, well, send us 10 ideas. And I thought just for laughs, I would send them 10 ideas. And they said, okay, we'll buy it. I'm like, holy no, oh hell no, I got to write a book. So that kind of happened, and oh my God, I wrote it from 7:30 at night to 2 in the morning, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and the first 3 chapters are really about all the mistakes I made with men and money and raising my baby alone and abusive marriage I had, and the stories really that kind of build me up to say, yeah, I'm just going to do this on my own. So that's sort of like and then it kind of rolls into the stories of how I started to build my business and experience, threaded with the stories that actually happened throughout my business, my career with my daughter. And she was little, I was raising her alone. So I think people say it's very inspirational. It's got some basic lessons in there. I probably should do round 2 because I've got to add in now the social media stuff, which is not in that book. But still, it's back to basics. It's the basics of you can. I remember speaking a few times, and these women afterwards would come up to me and say, "Oh, I can't be like you. I can't be like you because I'm going through a divorce, or I have no money, and I take care of my parents." And they tell me all these stories, and little did they know behind me, all of those things are in my life. So, and I thought, wow, if I could do this, I mean, if I could just say I had a husband who beat the hell out of me. I mean, so I've been through all those moments and all those things and recovered. So I thought, and so many people, I get people all the time that say, thank you, gives me hope that as a divorced mom now, that I can also have a career and I can do this. And I've had people years later email me back and thank me that my book gave them the courage to step out of their comfort zone and go for it for themselves. So I hope it continues.
Nice. That's a beautiful thing. I love that. So this book is for everybody because you want to spread just encouragement and hope. So everybody can read this book, right? It's not just for women.
No, men too, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, great. So what would be the one thing if you were to say, I want people to read this book, and this is the one thing I want you to take away. If you take nothing else away, this is the one thing I want you to get.
There's no excuse.
Miss
There is
Lynn.
no excuse. If you want something, there's no excuse.
Got it. All right. Well, I would love for you to share an oh hell no moment, because this is the oh hell no podcast. And a moment is going to be a moment of shock or disbelief, where you said, oh hell no, in that moment, right? It could be a positive moment or a negative moment, right? But I want it to be a moment that changed something for you, like maybe your perspective on something, or made you look at something differently, or even your life, like that moment just made you switch over and do something different. Think of a moment that you'd like to share with us, and tell us what that moment inspired.
I think it has to go back to when I made the decision when my daughter's birth father said that he said, if you go through with this pregnancy, he said, I want nothing to do with it. And I said to him at the time a few other words that are different than, oh, hell no. But when I hung up the phone with him, I said, oh, hell no, I am going to do this and take care of this baby and myself, and it's going to be great. I'm going to give her a great life. And I did.
Oh, that is awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you
you
today.
as well.
I love your energy. And please tell everyone where they can find your book and how they can connect with you.
Okay, first of all, my podcast is Real Estate Real Laughs. And it's all the crazy, wild, wacky stories behind the real estate curtain. So you'll get to hear all about celebrities and different names and people and things and stories that will really surprise you. That's on all the obvious platforms. My book is Heart and Soul: How to Survive and Thrive in Real Estate. It's Simon and Schuster. And I did a year ago, I did um, what do you call it? I did a TED Talk, and my TED Talk is on resiliency. And my TED Talk's a little bit about my book and everything kind of combined. And that was an amazing experience. So you can find that on any of the TED Talk websites. So my
Awesome.
name is Valerie Fitzgerald, and it's www.valeriefitzgerald.com. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.